We need a scientist to say like, Gubba's content makes people dumber and dumber people enjoy the app. And it's like, let's push Gubba.
Hello, and welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And we're back at it again, folks. We meet here at this podcast. We take about an hour and make up a story idea with randomly generated prompts or scraps. And then we'll give it a title and pull a line from the movie. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. We're going to troubleshoot and problem solve. And I'm here with my good buddy, Zach. Zach, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. I actually just figured out my Substack. So I stayed up late just messing with Substack.
I don't know if we've talked about that on the show.
I don't think so either. I've been waiting to kind of build up enough to share.
What do you mean you've figured it out? I thought it's been working. I've been getting some of your articles.
Well, those weren't mine. No, those are mine. But the way that, so kind of just exactly what we were talking about off mic, I was editing a video and Tommy was like, oh, you like story more than editing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you literally like maybe 30 seconds just said that.
I know, but when you say it out loud, like on StoryFellas, so you like story. What I was saying is that
that's true.
You like editing if you are dealing with story problems. Like,
yeah,
you're like,
I don't want to deal with
you don't want to blur things. You don't want to add
an editing
effects.
interface. That is not I don't really care. I mean, I edit in Final Cut. Go ahead, make fun of me. I'll make fun of you. Don't worry. Not you, the audience. I'll make fun of them. Ooh, I like Resolve. Ooh, I like paying a lot of money every year for Adobe. Shut up. Final Cut is king. I'm the Final Cut 7 Chad. Just overlay the Chad face, the Giga Chad face. Just like, no, I refuse to change editing suites.
I think most people refuse to change editing suites because they're just so used to it.
That exactly it is. I mean, that is my home. Final Cut is my home. Anyway, we're talking about Substack. We're not talking about Final Cut. But the same kind of thing applies where there's just so much to like getting it to be set up in a way that people will find it and be like people's little behaviors. And you understand this, consuming things online, audience, you're consuming this episode, like there are certain things that will alienate you from like trying to get to a creator's stuff. And you'll just give up. And it already be confusing, like there's my resident YouTubeologist is always telling me like, no, that belongs on a separate channel. Like you have to go hyper niche on YouTube. You can't like just do everything all on one channel. YouTube won't know how to feed it. You won't grow, blah, 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 blah. You suck. You're stupid. You're so stupid. He says that a lot actually. No. But the Substack thing is I figured out like how to nest, because Substack you have your profile, and then you have your publications, which are basically like the books that you make, or articles or like themed type publication, right? Let's say I write about like statistics, like population statistics. I follow a guy on Substack that does that, but if he started posting, creative writing, also getting sent to my inbox, that would be weird. So I figured it out. Like I followed another Substack where this guy was like, this is how you should, if you're doing creative writing, this is how it should be set up. So I'm just like going and copying everything this guy is doing for my thing. And I realized that he had something called a section. This is like inside baseball a little bit. He had a section for his stuff to make it easier to understand, basically, like that this was this kind of story, this was that kind of story. So within the publication, he could post stories to this thing. And so I did that for my story. I have like just one ongoing story, but I want to tell several, right? Like I want to tell just different things, but I don't want to confuse people where it's like, oh, you're getting your inbox. It'll be like marked as this type of story. So when you get it, you'll be like, oh, okay, I know where I'm at. So anyway, awesome. It's called zachlovelace.substack.com. That's all it really matters. Yeah,
we can, I can link, I'll put a note to link to your Substack so people can click below.
I appreciate that. As the other story fella, it goes a long way.
We can share our own projects if we want to.
Yeah. But I've written 4 little chapters of like a chapterized book basically on there. And they're like 5-minute reads each. It's not hard. Kind of hyper internet. That might be the best way to describe it. But I feel really good about that. I just rambled a bunch about what I'm doing. I know you're busy reading my Substack, Tommy.
Yeah, that's all I do. I just actually read it. I just wait around. I was telling Zach I've been watching. I watched first season of Severance. I kind of binged through it, but it just creates a lot of Severance related jokes in my head when I'm talking to coworkers and stuff, because I'm just like, yeah, I severed my brain to read Zach's Substack. There's a small version of me that only exists when he's reading Zach's stories. He's like, wait, I only exist for when they like disappears.
You're the one reader I have. Although it's very clear in the stats that one reader opening it 5 times counts once.
One reader, like if I keep clicking the link and going back, it only counts. It's like based on like IP address kind of.
Your inbox. So I guess just, you opening the email, if you open it one time, it's not, I can't tell if you have opened it 5 times, which that would be hard. That's almost like a punishing. You'd almost feel like it's homework at that point if you have to come back to it 5 times.
Yeah. You're like, what? No, I try to like set it aside when I've got a good little chunk of time to, enjoy it, because I don't want to like, there's a lot of stuff I kind of speed read because it's more nonfiction articles where you're just like, I just need to get the gems, but you're writing fiction. So I feel like in today's climate of so much content, I think one of the biggest compliments you could get, or when I think of what kind of stuff I want to make, I might have told you this before, but just the idea, I want to make stuff that people watch at normal speed. Because like so many people watch things at double speed or faster speed, but something that's more art based and more narrative and story based.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't want to, like some people might always do that, but you're not just trying to digest it. You're trying to take it at the pace that the artist intended it to be.
That's a great thought, because YouTube, if you're listening, if we're going to be making more stuff on your platform, give the creator the ability to lock off the speed.
Oh man. That would cause uproar with some of the audience. They would be like, I don't want to watch this at normal speed.
But I mean, hey.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's also a duty of ours too, that if I can make something good enough that they won't want to watch it fast. But who knows? I think
somebody might be going through this episode at triple speed right now. It might be the only way to listen to StoryFellas.
I listen to a lot of podcasts faster just because I am trying to, even the ones that are more entertainment based, like podcast feels a little different.
1.5, you can't detect it in the voice that they're going faster, but it just does go fast. It's the perfect speed. 2, okay, we're pushing it.
I've heard of some podcast apps that will gradually increase the thing as you listen.
Every time they say the word Shrek.
Every time they say Shrek, it doubles in speed.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, man. Well, right now. How about we tell a story, man? How about we...
Yeah. Now that they've like triple speeded through the intro, which I thought that was rich. That was dense. That was full of like really good insights, people. So if you're triple speeding that, shame on you.
Go back. Go half speed it. Go half speed it.
Half speed it. You owe us.
You owe us.
So yeah, you can. I don't care if you triple speed or skip through this story. The intro though, you have to listen to that.
Yeah. It's important. It's like that's actually a funny story of like a podcast that's unskippable and unfast forwardable. Yeah. It's like a cursed podcast. They're like and they can't change it after they've started it. It's like
that's pretty scary actually.
I've Jumanji'd myself.
Yeah. I'm living in the same episode over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day. It just happened actually.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that in our future to think about podcast.
I like that.
You can't skip. Haunted.
That's one of my favorite jokes. I'll trot out every once in a while when someone in a conversation, like if they kind of are going on and on about something, I'll just turn to someone next to me like, I didn't know I was in an unskippable blah 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 ad, and it usually kills.
That's funny. What a burn! And they always cry. They always cry.
I mean, yeah, they usually do, but I didn't know I was in an unskippable crying ad.
You just hit him again with the same joke. That feels like a Key and Peele sketch.
It does, yeah.
And then they go to HR, and then you just suddenly you're like, I didn't know I was in an unskippable HR ad.
Yeah. That's really good, actually. I could also see Joel Haver doing that.
Yeah, that feels
a solid. Like, I'm gonna beat this joke to death.
Yeah, we could do that joke. We could do a little sketch like that. That would be funny.
Yeah, gotta revive our skit channel. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm ready to roll some dice.
Yeah, let's roll some dice. Zach, can you roll a 10-sided die for me?
Here we go. Hot hand. I rolled a 5.
You rolled a 5. Let's see what we got. A lonely alien crash lands on Earth and tries to fit in by pretending to be a social media influencer. So we don't have someone just subtly trying to blend in. They are trying to, like, median celebrity.
All right.
So
works for me. Do we roll for anything else? Is that the only restriction?
We could put some flavor on it and make it roll for genre if you want. You want to roll for genre?
Yeah, let's do it.
Get? All right.
Let's see. I rolled a 9.
A 9. We got indie.
Okay. So that could be anything, like A24.
Yeah. I could just change it up too if you want. We don't respect that. Dude,
let's not respect it.
Let's roll it one more time.
Roll it one more time? Okay. I just closed my tab, but I'll roll it one more time.
I realize I have art house film and indie on this list, which feel like the same thing.
That's fair.
It's a rigged list.
Let's see. I rolled a 5 again. What? This is rigged.
5. Well, you didn't roll a 5 last time. You rolled a 9 or something.
No, but I rolled a 5 for the prompt.
Oh,
I'm just saying, like, in general. I'm like, what?
Let's do it suspense.
Okay. That's what I was hoping would land, or at least something thrillery.
I think
to send it into like weird, funny territory.
Yeah, I think that works. So we have a alien that crash lands, and I feel like we almost have a. I picture Men in Black 2, where the lady, the vine lady crashes, and then she just you have that meeting of someone. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" I think it's still going to have some funny beats in it. Maybe the Menu flavor of movie where it's kind of humorous, but overall it's suspenseful.
That's what you get with the StoryFellas is we're going to give you some good humor contrast in there. Hopefully anyway. Mega cringe. I don't know. We're going to add some mega cringe. But okay, so we have did we assume that it was a woman? Or are we kind of just...
No. Okay, here. I've got something else to give it some extra StoryFellas stink. This could stick too much in comedy and not enough in suspense. But if they're not, they don't look human. It's just E.T.
I thought about that.
It's just E.T. And he sees a TV where it's they're like, ooh, TikTok, and they're filming themselves, and he's like, or he finds a phone. Someone scrolls asleep on the park bench or something, and he takes their phone, and he's just oh. Scrolling through, and
E.T. just dies because he's doom scrolling. He forgets to eat.
It's actually a 2-minute short film. It's it's a satire. It's talking about the state of social media. I don't know. That's too comedy. I feel like we need to make them somewhat human-esque if we want to make it more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's true to be able to walk around. I think there's something funny about an alien walking around who's butt ugly. But people just assume it's a human.
Okay, I've got another crazy idea. Just keep throwing them until something sticks. We have an ET little ugly alien comes to Earth, discovers basically TikTok, and falls in love with it, and learns, I don't know, maybe there's some way that the alien can impart language and stuff. The guy on the park bench, he just holds his temples, and the guy twitches, and then the alien can speak English and have basic understanding of stuff. But then he thinks, oh, life is about making this short form content, which it does feel like we're on the trajectory of making a commentary on short form content.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that definitely is the case.
But the twist of what makes it suspenseful is he becomes super successful. He's a millionaire influencer. And then you just have this little butt ugly alien in his big mansion, and then he has a human stalker that's breaking into the house, and that's where the suspense comes in.
I kind of like that. That's a lot of setup. I mean, that is a lot of setup. I think you could probably do it in like you said, a short film style, like 5 minutes. You know, or maybe even it would be funny if you opened up with the aliens TikToks.
Yeah,
you know, like literally like vertical. Like imagine sitting in the theater and it's like just a compilation. You're just doom scrolling. Like the audience is doom scrolling, right? Yeah. And so you see other things.
Yeah.
And you just keep seeing the aliens things. And then eventually once you learn the plot points or the, you know, origin story, it's like in like 5 videos or whatever.
Yeah. I think we're like with 2 teens that are not in the movie besides the intro, and they're just scrolling. They're like, oh man, I love these TikToks. And then one of them's like, whoa, what is that? And he's like, have you not heard of Little Gubba? And then it's like, I don't know. And he's like, who's Little Gubba? And he's just like, he's a real alien. He's a real live alien that came to the Earth, and he's super famous on TikTok.
Somehow he got a phone.
And then we have that kind of, they're like, the camera's pushing into the TikTok of just like him like dancing, little alien dance, and then like go into the phone, and then you hear and cut, and he has like a whole little media team. They're like, that was a great TikTok. And I don't know if we actually want to call him Gubba.
Gubba's fine.
Gubba. He's
that
little.
He's little.
He's little Gubba on TikTok, but he's just Gubba. He's Mr. Gubba.
At little Gubba.
At little Gubba.
Excuse me.
But I like the idea that he just has this. We just established really quickly that's literally what he is. He's basically an ET. But he has this whole team. He has a little voice. It would be funny if he didn't talk, but I think that's pushing it a little too far.
I think he should definitely talk. And I mean, we just blasted through a couple of iterations here. So I do think Little Gubba will start there. That basically he becomes brain rot incarnate. Especially if he's like, can like telepathically communicate or whatever, and he like, you know, he's like an empath kind of alien. He touches them and they know how he's feeling, because that's kind of ET, right? Like the little boy felt like ET, you know, and vice versa.
We're telling toxic like, ET here. It's basically
it's toxic ET brain rot. I mean, I think that's like, you know, that's brain rot ET, skibbity ET. That's, and I mean, short form content is definitely doing that. So what if he just like lobotomized people and that made them enjoy the short form content?
Like telepathically?
Like however we do it, like, you know, somebody proves like watching a bunch of Gubba content literally lobotomizes you and it makes you on the app longer. That's why they like in the boardroom, they're like, that's kind of scary and satirical, right?
I think that, I think you can also, leaning into the commentary, the boardroom is like, do not watch his content, but we're not kicking him off. He is driving so much people to the app right now. Yeah,
basically, we need a scientist to say like, Gubba's content makes people dumber, and dumber people enjoy the app. And it's like, let's push Gubba. So they do push him. You know, and that's like the whole thing. And I think it'd be cool to end up in a scene with like the CEO of the TikTok, and he has a kid, and it's like completely off the grid. You know, like he doesn't let his kid have any technology. And then you're really contrasting like how dark that is, where it's like, oh, you people can get all dumb and everything, but and then Gubba like lobotomizes the CEO. I think that would be really funny.
So here's a question: is if we're introducing the suspense, it almost sounds like the suspense is founded in one of a few places. It could be Gubba, where maybe Gubba doesn't realize the effect he has on people. He just thinks people like him and he's doing his thing. He came to Earth and this has worked out for him. But then you do get some sort of someone trying to kill him because maybe Gubba, from someone overdosing on his content, like their relative died.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary. And it's kind of funny because this little alien is the center of this suspense piece. The suspense can be all businessy. It can be in the shady dealings of the board and stuff like that. I don't want to get too lost. Like Gubba's the interesting thing, so I don't want to get too away from Gubba, you know?
Totally. I think
I don't want to
one
do
thing
an
about the suspense.
Oppenheimer where it's like it's about the bomb, but we don't really hang out with the bomb. We're just like with Robert
Yeah,
Downey
I wanted
Jr.
to know the bomb. I wanted to know. I wanted to hear from the bomb.
What
In
does the bomb
Oppenheimer.
have to think about this?
Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah, the bomb probably it was living up to its truest nature. It probably really enjoyed what it was doing if it didn't in fact have any sentiency. Now with Gubba, the problem with him is that I don't care about him in terms of he's not human.
Yeah.
So like the suspense of like, oh, somebody wants to kill him.
Yeah.
You
He's
know.
more of just a MacGuffin. Like he's there. He is what the story's built around, but we need to almost tell stories around him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we
Yeah.
need, I'm just going to dish out some character potentials.
He's like Paddington. He's like Paddington, but
but toxic.
Toxic, lobotomizing, and like again, brain rot Paddington.
Yeah, I just picture that he basically around him creates idiocracy,
Basically, yeah.
Where
That's funny.
they have a film crew. They have a whole setup where he's like, "Do you guys want to stay for the TikToks?" Or it's either one of two things. They like set up this shoot and then they leave and they hit record and they can't stay because the people who are employed know, oh, I can't be here for too long or it has a negative effect on me. Or they have hazmat suits because I think that's also interesting. And that's a cool, interesting thing if we don't reveal that until like one quarter into the movie where it's like, oh, all these things. And then we see the behind the scenes or someone, maybe a protagonist shows up and they see, and everyone on crew is in full hazmat suits. And then it's kind of creating this bigger question of, wait, what's going on? Why are you guys are all protected? What does that mean?
That is interesting. I do think it would be funny though, like just a comedy engine to just have the people who work with him be really dumb.
That's true. It depends if you wanted to stay on the suspense train.
I do think if like the CEO showed up in a hazmat suit, that would then kind of tell you, or like he's like, oh, the CEO of TikTok, which we can name it something else. That like he shows up and it's like a chamber that he shows up in and he doesn't let him. It's like a jail almost where he doesn't let him, he's like, oh, I can't meet with you face to face. Like, and it's, explained after that or by the CEO, like the full nature of it. But I do think we need a human character that we need to care about.
Yeah.
Whether that's a fan or like someone on the crew who's brought in to like help him.
Yeah. Do we want to, the hurdle I'm finding myself running into is how do we pair any protagonist with Gubba if Gubba makes them dumber? Do we want to make his like power more targeted? Like he has to intentionally target it? Or is it just by being near him, you will
I think it's just
dumber?
by being near him. It just doesn't have to happen
fast,
super fast. I mean, I think he could probably make it happen faster. That might be the thing. It's like ambiently happening all the time. But he can like, we see him do that sometimes where it's like, some fan meets him and he just like takes
we are
him.
basically, I like this a lot. We're basically just telling a version of E.T. Like we have a protagonist trying to protect and hide him and smuggle him to safety. Like maybe Gubba's like, yeah, this was fun, but I really just want to go home. But then it's funny because we have this we don't have someone who wants to study aliens. We just have a big multimedia conglomerate that says, we can't lose this guy. He's making us so much money. And then he also just makes people dumber. Like that's his power. That's his magic power.
I think then the TikTok people just keep hiring him bodyguards. And the scary part is that you come to find out that the bodyguards are being replaced. So the guy comes in and he's just like a normal guy, and maybe a bouncer or something like that. I kind of like that. I do like the opening where we open up on like TikTok reels and the doom scrolling, and we that's how we introduce Gubba.
Yeah.
But then we kind of smash cut to somewhere else with our main character from there. And maybe he's in LA or New York, wherever they're stationed. And they're just like, hey, we need to go get a new guy. And then he keeps hearing about the other guy. He keeps hearing about the other bodyguard. And eventually he goes to like the guy's house or whatever. And he finds that he's being taken care of by his wife because the guy is like a total brain rot idiot now.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's just like completely stupid. I think that's dark and scary. And then he starts to realize he's been set up. So then the main character is now like, I think we set him up to do more of a kind of mice and men type thing. Like he needs to kill Gubba, like, and he kind of takes it upon himself.
Okay.
That's the arc anyway.
I think one, I feel like it'd be maybe plot-wise beneficial to make it not a permanent condition that Gubba creates. Like if you keep watching TikTok, yes, it's gonna, because you're drawn to that and you won't recover. But I want to give an avenue that if the protagonist is with Gubba for too long and starts to feel like unclear on things, then he's like, we need to separate for a bit, and like he can kind of come back to par. Because I think that's an interesting plot point to separate them in certain instances. And I don't want him to just be, I don't know, if he just keeps becoming dumber and it never recovers, then I feel like we're fighting an uphill battle where this...
I think maybe you come to realize like it's happening faster. Like he's running through bodyguards faster.
Yeah.
Like they're getting unmitigated access. And then maybe there's even like a plot basically this is the mystery. So audience, you're going to hear it plain, but it'll hopefully be threaded in dramatically, which is that there is somebody trying to kill Gubba. There's a plot to kill him. There's a lot of chatter online about it. There's all these conspiracy theories about trying to kill Gubba because from other employees' families and stuff. They're like, hey, they took our dad or our brother or whatever, like bodyguard wise. Yeah. And then so our main character,
maybe he's a journalist. That might just be
like covering him.
Yeah, like he's trying to do a story on...
I like him being more of an everyman kind of, again, bodyguard guy, because he would know his way around a gun. And I don't know, that to me is like, gives you the suspense.
I think I missed that. You want him to be one of the bodyguards. Or
yeah. And then he realizes he's just like, oh, they blow through these guys in a week. Mm-hmm. So the whole story takes place in a week, but he's being paid like an exorbitant amount of money. Mm-hmm. I think I have the name of the app.
Oh, okay, of the fake TikTok thing?
For the fake TikTok, let's call it Fidget.
Oh, yeah. That's a good name for, that's like so on the nose.
That's funny, trust me. Trust me.
Not in a bad way, in a writer sense. I'm just thinking the audacity of a social media brand to call their app Fidget is like, they're not even trying to hide the fact of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, you thought TikTok was bad. Our app is way more sensational.
It's just like, Minecraft footage, and then like while somebody is talking, I don't know. That's just...
I like that. So I think we have this guy. I kind of feel like Mike, maybe. Just Mike, the bodyguard.
I like that, yeah.
Mike is the new bodyguard. And I don't picture him like super beefed out or anything. Not like full bouncer, but just guy in a suit and stuff.
Yeah, maybe he's ex-military. He was, an operator for a while, and just knows his way around again. And so he dresses military. I think that he's coded that way,
Yeah.
But then he's like down on his luck, obviously. Like he,
yeah, he's not thrilled of being a bodyguard for social media influence.
Well, he's trying to get, because you got to show Mike in like the down on his luck state. Mm-hmm. Like you cut from the Fidget intro with the kids enjoying the Gubba stuff and like Gubba as a sensation, to maybe, I want to say like you could go like this might be a little bit fast, but like you could cut to like Mike getting hired basically, mm-hmm. and they're showing him like this is who you're going to be mm-hmm. guarding, and so you like pull out of the footage into a boardroom, and Mike's like, man, we can even just subtly just like he's like, man, that stuff gives me a headache. And they turn off the footage or whatever, and he's just like he gets briefed basically by somebody.
I do think that this is taking the form a little bit of a TV show, because I feel like this is something that you could, and I'm just coming off of Severance.
Yeah.
But it does feel like something that you could. It could be a feature, and we can still plan it and talk about it in that sense. But I could also see there's so much mystery that you could hide in here, where mm-hmm. there's this bigger thing and a literal dangerous thing that this company is hiding mm-hmm. and exploiting. And I think that, I don't know, I could just see that misdirect being played out over a season of TV. But just telling the story as a whole, keeping it in the feature length, I think he's the bodyguard. he's down on his luck. He doesn't necessarily want this job. He doesn't think it's that important.
He's also, again, the showing that he's down on his luck somehow. You know, like maybe he leaves in like a really beat up car.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then I do imagine that he has a daughter. You know, maybe a daughter and a wife. We don't need to like totally blow up a family. That's pretty common anyway, where you just show like, oh, dead wife or divorced
no, I think
or
there.
whatever.
I think having a kid who is on social media to some degree creates some later stakes to the thing.
Totally.
I think he's like, there's a late night. The daughter's asleep or in her room, and there's a late night talk, and she's like, "How'd your first day go?" He's like, "It's fine. Like, it's just a little weird alien thing. Like, I don't really know why people would even want to kill it or why people are concerned about it." And she's like, "You could, do you want to tell Sally, whoever the daughter? Like, she might be excited." He's like, "No, I don't. I don't want to give her another reason to be on the app. You know, I don't want her. Like, I don't like that this stuff exists, really. And we don't have to be all so on the nose with it. But basically, he's just older. It's like beyond his generation.
Yeah,
and he just
I like
it's
this shot
a little
of
much.
he's in bed with his wife, and she's just like rolled over on her phone. You know, kind of that's just like classic moment for people nowadays. And maybe he's doing something similar, but just like, you know, she rolls over and she's just like, you can hear her scrolling or whatever, and he's just processing his first day.
Yeah, a little subtle moment.
Yep.
I
like
think,
even though she's had that heartfelt kind of like, how was your day? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. And he kind of gives her the answer. She doesn't pry any deeper. She just turns over and is like, you know, okay.
yeah. Yeah, we're kind of setting the scene for this stuff. I think the whole crew and producers and stuff are very overly bubbly, you know? They're hyper positive. And I think the crew is like being cycled out pretty frequently.
I was going to say you'd have to, yeah.
But then I think either the producer or the head of the stuff, Mike notices that they alternate days. There's like 3 head guys, and they every 3 days they show up, and then he maybe even mentions that to, like, I don't know, a gaffer, someone who's lighting something. He's like, why do they change producers every day? It seems inefficient. They're like, I don't know. It's just it's a instruction from the big boys or something. But they're doing that because they know that they can't spend too much time with Gubba.
Which, does he like spend 24 hours with him? You know, like what is his shift like?
That is something that I want. I'm always not a huge fan of making the protagonist special in the sense that some reason Mike's unaffected by Gubba's, and that's what makes him the one. We could narratively come up with a reason, and this is the thing, because he is going to spend a lot of time, like, he's the bodyguard. He's supposed to be there. So what's keeping him from, like, within a week just
I mean, you could
done?
go super satirical, and it's just like he realizes that he's one of many bodyguards that are older, and just older people are a little less susceptible to it. But the thing is, what I find about social media anyway is that the older people actually are very susceptible to it. It's like the older people and the younger people just gobble it up without really thinking about it. But the people who grew up with technology, like our age, we are very suspicious of it. And you know, we've talked a lot about like going to a light phone, kind of getting off the internet, struggling with posting a podcast and just keeping up with all of that, because it's like, I don't want to be on
a screen all the time.
But like people my parents' age just gobble it up. And then obviously like younger kids in their early 20s and stuff, younger than that, are just on it all the time.
Yeah, I think let's put a pin in that. I think we can find a reason. I think it will help us if he is not. We need to figure out Gubba's power if it's just radiation, you know, just literally being near and looking at him.
I mean, maybe when it's only really when he's filming. But then the bodyguard would, he wouldn't really be.
What if it's not a presence thing as much as it's a looking at him thing? Because that's what social media is. You're like looking at him. So if you look at him for too long, that's what starts the effects. And it's a slippery slope, because if you start it's almost addictive. It's an addictive quality to keep looking at him, and then it rots your brain. I don't know if I like that or not. I like the presence thing.
The social media mediates the issue, so it's not as strong. In person, it's way stronger. So like Mike comes home and has like migraines and stuff, and he's just like, oh man, it kind of reminds me a little bit of They Live, the John Carpenter alien film, where they had the sunglasses, and you can see, if you put on sunglasses, you can see the aliens who are in plain sight and everything. But like he takes them off and he has a headache, like having clear vision is like really hard, basically. So I don't know, some of the modulating, some of the power or whatever, I do think it's just being around him.
Yeah.
And of course, like maybe even touching him will do that. Like it just accelerates the issue. So
he's radioactive for dumbness.
Basically. Yeah, basically, he's the orb of confusion from SpongeBob.
What a reference! I haven't thought about the orb of confusion in a hot minute.
Patrick, it's off. But yeah, I like the idea that Mike stops an assassination attempt from a previous bodyguard, or like previous bodyguard's like brother or something, or maybe another guy from his unit. Maybe is the other thing, is like they're just military guys. And so maybe even he can say like, we met a couple of these aliens, or like other types of aliens, in kind of like a Men in Black sense, over in the desert, wherever we were. And so these guys, that's why they're chosen, is like they're somewhat aware of these things and how secret they should be and whatnot. So they keep going through these operator type characters. That's really interesting. It's like Sicario almost.
Yeah, I like the idea of him not taking this job seriously, and within the first, we need to figure out our clock, because how dumb does he get? I think within maybe the first day or two, like on his second day, like someone tries to kill Gubba, and he
kills that person, I think. Like, because that would stop he wouldn't be able to interrogate them. Like he shoots them, and then maybe as they're dying, he's like, kill him, you gotta, whatever, he tells them like one line about Gubba.
Yeah. And that leads him down this rabbit hole of, at night he stays up, he's on forums and Reddit, and just kind of, he sees there's like a lot of hate generally just because he's an alien. People are like, it's unnatural, and that's like the surface level argument. But then he does find little hints of conspiracy theories, like this affected my son or my spouse, like just watching him, and then like
Gubba hate.
We just keep on seeing close-ups of headaches, migraines, and then he's starting to piece together like, I do have migraines. So I think that's interesting. And I think we need to choose which fork, because I think at some point he maybe has a private conversation with Gubba, because he's the bodyguard,
Yeah.
Or he's maybe the daytime bodyguard and there's a nighttime bodyguard. And does he befriend Gubba? Is Gubba in the camp of, I want to go home?
Gubba, for the most part, is like just a dumb little animal thing. Like I don't even think it's like super. I think we can reveal that it actually is like pretty intelligent. But he's just like, it'll just sit there, and like, obviously it'll like use the phone and everything. So I guess it is intelligent enough, but I think there's a little bit of a psyop angle to this, where it's Mike, what you realize about Gubba is that it might be so dumb that actually it is just like basically the government who started his TikTok account.
Yeah.
And it like, it's just like, there's really nothing impressive about Gubba. Like, it doesn't even move half the time. Or like, it's just like, I like that it's like sitting in the front seat next to him, and it's got like sunglasses on.
I just picture like he's kind of a little blob. He's just
I mean, he does have like, he's humanoid. He has arms and legs and like a head. I think E.T. is a good angle. And then like an ugly face with a different color. He's not brown, and I don't think he should be gray either.
No, I don't want the classic Martian looking alien. I think E.T., but like less wrinkly and more
green,
more round.
Green is okay. Like,
or orange or something like that.
Orange, or blue. Doesn't really matter. It could be all of these things. But yeah, I think maybe he gets mad at one point, Gubba. Like he doesn't get whatever treat that he wants, and he gets mad, and you could see kind of like psychic wave, because there'd be other people talking to Gubba all the time, his manager, his agent. I love the idea of him being on a couple podcasts. Like you see him do a podcast circuit, and it's like, oh, he's going to be talking about his new appearance in a movie with blah blah blah.
So I think that we need to balance Gubba's intellect, because if he's too much just like a little animal, I guess you could, like, he needs to be, we're like landing more in pet territory.
Well, I think E.T.'s perfect. E.T. like obviously is intelligent, but he's so childlike and enamored with life and stuff that it's like Mike comes home, I'm just babysitting.
Yeah.
It reminds me of you when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he's funny and like, oh, Dad, can I meet him? But he's not, go ahead.
So I was thinking this earlier where he's in these forums, he's realizing he maybe goes and visits the old bodyguard. That's a lot of the first or second act, first half, where he's putting this together and saying, oh, this is a bad thing. And maybe part of him feels like, I don't know if we want to put it in him that should he take it on to kill Gubba, or like he realizes his daughter's starting to watch it. But I think the twist is that he, I think this is interesting, where Gubba always seems very childlike and very like not conversational, just doesn't say a lot of words. And then he comes in and it's just the two of them for a period. It's like in between shoots or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that kind of thought of this thing's hurting my daughter and hurting a lot of people, and I'm here and I could do any kind of toys with the gun, and like maybe pulls out slowly. And then I don't know how I feel about this, but then Gubba has like a full sentence of, are you going to try to kill me too?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that he, instead of killing Gubba also wants to leave. He's like, I'm forced to be here and do this thing and do this dance. But I want to get out of here. I just don't have anyone to help me do it. And then it's like a tag team thing where he tries to sneak Gubba off at that point. I'm mixed on that. I don't know if I love that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like if he's too, like, I need something for him. If Gubba's not smart enough to like communicate, I need to go here or do this or leave this thing, then what's to stop him or from a different... I do think it'd be interesting if he has to fight another active bodyguard. Like when there's like the shift, he's going to leave and he can tell that the night guy is on edge, and then he's like leaving, but then he's like, something's not right, and he comes back in, and then he has to fight that bodyguard. Like he can see, he's like, Gubba, where are you? And Gubba's hiding, and then he has to fight the bodyguard. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, he shows up to like Gubba's trailer, or maybe even his house, like where he's at, and he realizes like tables are knocked over and stuff. Like there was a struggle, and Gubba has run away, and he like walks in on the guy like with a gun out, and he's like, dude, no, you need to stop, He's like, no, you're not listening. Like we need to get rid of this guy.
Yeah. And maybe that's where we get some more solid exposition.
Agreed. Yeah.
From that guy.
I think that guy should just get killed by like a third bodyguard before it's even, again, it's more of a good tease than it is like, oh man. And that's certainly a like midpoint shift where, okay, Mike is very aware now that Gubba is not good. And he's like eating his way through all of these bodyguards. I think he's an intelligence eater, is the thing. And so he obviously psychically devours. And that's why it's like, he doesn't need to be more than a child in my mind.
I think that makes sense. Intelligence eater is kind of a good symbol for social media, brain rot stuff.
Yeah, well, he is brain rot, again, like symbolically. So that's why I don't think, he doesn't need to be, it almost hurts the symbol of him to be anything more than just like, he just like is like muttering to himself all the time. And he can say things too, where it's like, ooh, Gubba, like blah, blah, blah. And it's just, he is obviously intelligent, but it's more of a toddler at that point. So
narratively, if he's personifying brain rot, and brain rot just feels fairly not useful, not Like, unless we wanted to reform Gubba, that's the symbol we're making. What's keeping Mike from either just killing Gubba or just stealing him and throwing him in the woods and calling it a day, you know? Like,
He's
what
never
is
really
the
alone with
conduit?
him, I think, is the reality. Like, he goes to a convention. I think some big scenes you'd see is like he goes to a convention with Gubba. He goes to, and maybe even there's like kids who like pass out. You know, again, we are really starting to show the effect of like Gubba in person is bad.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody touches him
Mm-hmm.
and it like, gives them a seizure. And so he's like, why does this keep happening?
Yeah.
You know, and then he like looks around in the crowd and they're all like really dumb faces.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think it culminates with the other guy, the other bodyguard turning and trying to kill him. And then it kind of spirals where, okay, Mike gets pulled up because he saved Gubba's life. He gets pulled up. It's like the Fidget CEO wants to talk to you. Mark Dozen, you know, whatever his name is, Mark
Yeah.
Dozen wants to talk to you. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. He gets pulled up. He wants to thank you. You know, he's like, thank you. You know, he says, this is a very important asset. Like, you know, Gubba's really important to this platform. He moves numbers. He moves numbers. You know, and I don't know if at that point you see the hazmat suit kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
he's
think,
like, going forward, I want you to be connected at the hip. Like we're upping his security protocol.
yeah. And then
Accelerates.
he's also realizing maybe he goes home, talks to his wife, and he's like, I just don't know if I want this job. It feels like something weird is going on. And especially those that are closer to this thing. And
And we could
then,
see him having intelligence issues at home,
yeah,
where it's
he's
like
like,
things that he normally would be able to do. Like we basically give him dementia,
he's
where
just
he like
forgetting more
forgets.
things.
Yeah, I mean, he forgets his wife's name. Like, and it can be they're like little family kind of subplots going on where it's like his daughter is having like trouble at school, and he's sitting there helping her with her homework, and he's like, oh, and he tells her the math. He's like working, and then there's like one night you see it, and he's like gets the problem completely wrong, or just like you see him taking way longer with it, and maybe he gets a nosebleed.
Maybe he takes a few days off or something. He's like sick. I don't know if they would let him do that. I do you see where I'm having trouble? Where it's like we're making our main protagonist who's solving a mystery less equipped to solve a mystery as the mystery.
Yeah, I think that's an urgency thing.
Yeah.
So it needs to just happen. He needs to realize it really quickly, and then, I mean, there's a really dark moment where I do think he kills Gubba. You know, he's able to go to the next. Honestly, maybe the convention thing is where it happens. It's like we're doing a Gubba. You know, where it's not about he's not. I don't know, or maybe during a podcast, like a live stream. They have Gubba on there, and he kills him during a live stream. I think that would be really cool. Yeah.
That's like that. I'm picturing a Eagle Eye scene.
Oh, I haven't seen Eagle Eye.
Oh, well, I don't have to go into it
Spoil
too
it
much.
for me. Yeah, spoil it for me.
Spoiler alerts. Fast forward a minute if you don't want to hear it. It's like, what, 15 years old?
Yeah.
There's like a thing. There's like a ticking clock of something bad's going to happen on stage. So Shia LaBeouf has to run, and he doesn't have time to get staged, so he just shoots his gun in the air to cause a scene, to interrupt what's happening. It's basically an explosive will go off. And then, but knowing full well, like this is like a government thing, like he immediately gets shot, like doing that. And I think we could have a scene like that where something's culminating. Maybe we slowly build up that the daughter's becoming more and more a fan of Gubba to the point that the mom and her are in the crowd and they're all just like dumb-faced staring at him. And maybe he notices some people in the crowd are, they're like, the producers were like, Gubba, do your dance. And Gubba's like doing its dance or whatever. And some kids, like you say, are passing out. So he looks and like some kids are having nosebleeds. And it's just, maybe this is the first live appearance of Gubba. And like he feels bad. He's feeling headachy. And then there's other security guys there. And, you know, he takes a shot at Gubba to save the crowd. And then reactionary people take shots at him.
That's true. I think that could definitely be like the ending, obviously, where he kills Gubba, but they kill him.
Yeah, I feel bad of Gubba dying because he feels like he's just a thing, like he's just a thing being used.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a super dark, evil thing. I think Mark Dozen, the CEO of Fidget, is like, he needs to eat. You really think he eats Pringles? Do you really think he eats whatever? And it's like, we bring him to these events so he can eat. It's easier for him to eat a group, basically. And he doesn't like make them all dumb, like just totally zap their intelligence. But because it's but when it's the exposure to one person, his content ambiently does this, obviously. I think that's why it like sends his daughter. Maybe his daughter has a seizure while at the thing. And that's
sets him over
the edge, Yep.
Do you think he dies at the end? Do you think Mike, or he just takes care of? I almost feel like there's an instant relief when Gubba dies, like where the crowd that has been basically hypnotized comes to, and then it's this kind of turning against the CEO and the company of Fidget because they realize,
well, I think
this wasn't healthy.
The reality would be like, you really think killing him did anything?
Okay.
Why we still have this many people on the app? It's like it doesn't move. And now we have in memoriam accounts for him. Of course, it's not making them dumber, because the whole thing would be like, why would they? What's the big conspiracy? Basically, they're just like feeding this alien? Does this alien do something for the government, or is it just to make people dumber? And obviously make them easier to control, maybe. Like, that's kind of the thing, is like, hey, dumber people are easier to control. Like,
Yeah.
I just look at you, Mike. I got you to be right where I wanted you, Mike.
Yeah. I think he gets subdued by other bodyguards or something. There's just a riot and people are going crazy. And they're snapping too. Like, kids are passing out and their parents aren't realizing it.
Yeah.
Because they're so infatuated. And then when Gubba dies, there's panic in the crowds, and the illusion is broken. And I like the idea that even the interpretation through images or video, like that power is broken too. Like they still might have his account, but they're I like some final confrontation.
It's a hopeful ending where it's like, okay, we've removed this thing that is
I think
causing
there can still be that conversation, because I think he would bring Mike in, the CEO. Mark would bring Mike in for a final meeting. He's like, so if there's more public, he's alluding that the punishment would be more severe if public opinion was not so bad over Gubba, but because people feel liberated from Gubba, that's like on the news everywhere, he can't make huge moves against Mike, but because he's trying to save face. But he also says, like, you're definitely fired. You definitely will not.
He'd be in a jail cell either way. Like, he's firing a gun and, I mean, killing something or someone, like a person ish, in front of people. That's pretty hardcore. They tackle him or whatever, and they're able to.
I guess it depends on the level of. Yeah, he might go to a prison for a little bit,
or he's in a hospital bed because he got shot and he's alive. And it's like,
I just feel like public opinion over Gubba goes down immediately, and it hurts Mark and his company. And then Mike feels like he made a difference, but there's still that conversation where Mark says, "Yeah, Gubba was a huge asset, but do you think we're done doing what we're doing?" So it's this kind of, I want it to be bleak in that sense, but hopeful in the sense that maybe his daughter comes.
I think you could end on a scene where his daughter like throws her phone into the water, to the lake, wherever they're at, to the ocean.
Yeah.
I that's a little on the nose, but I mean, the setup would be like she chooses to be like in the moment with him instead, as opposed to, being enraptured in her phone. Yeah. But you could still be bleak because it's like, looking at his wife is still like enamored in her phone.
I feel like I think we could, after this situation, I think all the family would take a break from social media. I think that's the message.
That's why we need to end the movie as quickly as possible. with it. I don't think we even show any of this epilogue type stuff. Or if we do, we go back to the TikTok format, and it's like, breaking news, Gubba dead, blah 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 blah, and then you just you swipe up, like the film swipes up, and the news is lost. It's like you're still in you're doom scrolling now, and it's like whatever impact that the news would have made is totally gobbled up by the fact that you're just on to something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the good bleak. Like, okay, yeah, we got rid of Gubba, and we got a little insight into what happened to Mike, and maybe we like pick up a little bit more where you see like Gubba conspiracy, and then that again just keeps getting swiped up, and it just gets lost in all this other brain rot.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the credit scene, a clever credit scene where all the credits are just like the swipes.
That's cool.
That's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
fun. I think the tone and the message I'm wanting to end on is, hey, I feel like the theme that we're communicating in a sense is that it's up to the individual to make the right choice concerning this, because this thing is going to be here for a while, and it's only going to change and reform if the individual, like his family's little picture of that his daughter is like sketching in a sketchbook, and his wife is just taking a moment to be with him while he's got a big cast on or something like that. Because I don't know, from my experience from social media is that just if I personally remove myself from it, then I feel better, even if all the people around me, like you kind of become more aware.
Again, I think he would be in jail though. I don't think like he'd be handcuffed. I don't think he would have visitors in the hospital. Maybe actually the dark kind of thing is like he's sitting there. He's obviously kind of beat up. He's been shot, and he's just handcuffed to the bed. And his nurse comes in, and she just like is helping him for a minute, and then she sits down. Or maybe the cop that's watching him is just like on his phone. He can see like at the threshold of the door where you can see the cop sitting there. He's like on his phone, and he just is like swiping or whatever. And you just end on Mike. You just kind of push in on him.
I'm okay with that, because typically, listeners, if you've listened in the past, I don't like ending on the sour, dreary note. But this is, since it's a commentary in a sense, it's putting it on the onus on the audience. Like you're saying, this thing is still here. This thing is problem. This thing is kind of a problem in real life. And I'm not trying to be preachy of social media. I think it can be good, but at the same time, we see in the news the detrimental effects it has on people.
Totally, yeah.
So it's kind of a warning that even though it ends, he didn't solve the problem of social media. He solved this one facet, and he's
and the thing is, it went away. The news, it's more about that, like you're consuming in such short form that you don't even have the time to appreciate what it was that Mike did. And the world doesn't, because the world's just continuing to turn, and it's just only on short-term thinking now. And short form content. So that's why I think, we get like a kind of an oblique message that his family knows he's okay, that his daughter's like maybe drawing him a picture. Maybe she sends him a picture, and he has that in the hospital. That kind of thing. And maybe it's like back to being good. Maybe there was a kind of a subplot thing where her drawing is getting worse, or she's choosing not to draw. And he's there trying to encourage her to do so, but she like finishes a drawing and sends it to him.
Yeah.
And it can be something symbolic, obviously, like something botanical, something organic growth, like a tree or whatever. Like, that supplies you hope, right? Like the daughter is giving you hope that like, okay, next generation is like choosing, and maybe she's like, she writes a little handwritten note and is like, I didn't look at my phone all day or something like that. But then he looks and he sees that the bodyguards are like on their phones. And people can't suffer the quiet moments, and he's just sitting there in total silence in the hospital room. I think that's cool. But then again, ending on where we bookended the film, opening on the TikTok, the fidget doom scrolling thing, and then we end on that as well. So the whole film is just situated within this whole short form reels thing, and I think that's really interesting. And that tells you what you need to know about, like, okay, the narrative is now just part of. It's just been obliterated into itty bitty pieces, and that's the problem.
I think that makes sense, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. That I think we've watched some video essays about how people can't focus anymore these days because they're just so consumed with short form content. I I think that also works. I like the hope being in his family, but the bleakness being in the world's people in the world are still going to do this, you know?
Yeah. Here we go. I got one more little dark thing. This might be the better one than the security guard thing. You know, he sees he's on painkillers, right? He's been shot several times. He's not in like good shape, you know. Again, handcuffed to the bed kind of thing. But he sees the nurse out in the hallway, like check her phone, and you see her doom scroll a little bit. And then she tucks it away real quick and comes in, and then she has to determine like the dosage. And she's just sitting there for a second, you know, and like can't do the math. I think in some ways that would be, or the doctor even, that would be funny.
Are we implying there's another supernatural thing?
Yeah, or just in general, like we are letting people who take care of the most important things in life, like you know, lobotomize themselves basically. And yeah, I think that's really dark. And more in like a practical way where it's like, we're not saying anything supernatural is happening there. It's just seeing the doctors and the nurses like at the station. You can see them through like the little window, and he just sees them like leaning over, looking at stuff and just scrolling or whatever. And like, oh yeah, I gotta go. And then she comes in and is like, opens up the little fentanyl box or whatever. There's like a little morphine distributor thing. And is like, you know, for a second. And she's just kind of like has to check it like 6 times. And then says something to that effect. I don't know. I think
that makes sense. Any scene like that, I think, works because we're kind of contrasting what is still going on. And I think it's interesting also because I don't even know. And doctors and nurses, maybe they're not allowed to have their phones during the thing. I'm not really sure how.
I mean, I don't know. Nurses, you'd see them during COVID, especially do all the dances and stuff. Like, I think they just find a way, even if they're not allowed. And that's the thing. He can just see them sneaking, you know, a look or whatever. I mean, it can be something like he's even looking outside and he can see where people once took their smoke breaks and there's like 6 people on their phone, you know, out there just like whatever, smoking, I guess, maybe as well.
You just can see through the window. It's like an L-shaped building, and he looks through his window to the different doctor's window, and he can see one of the nurses just doing the like TikTok dance. Like
that actually would be really dark and scary. Yeah,
because there's a lot of stuff out there that's fake because I'm like, these guys aren't real doctors. They're just dressed like doctors and they're just in an office. But it does make me a little worried when I'm like, are you really a doctor or a dentist? And you're actually like dancing?
That actually is probably better than even her just doom scrolling. Is like you see her doing dances and then you see her like stop real quick and then come back in and then do the, okay, how much morphine are we going to give you today?
Yeah.
You know,
it's just this kind of acknowledgement.
It's just, I don't want that person taking care of me. I don't want that. Yeah, agreed. Well, that feels like a wrap on the Gubba story.
Like part of me is just thinking, should it be titled Lil Gubba? But
at Lil Gubba.
I was thinking at Lil Gubba could be funny, but I don't know if that would look weird as a title. I should probably look up at Lil Gubba and make sure that's not like a thing. Like, don't go to at Lil Gubba, people. I think we're overthinking it. Let's just call it Gubba.
Gubba.
I would, if I see a movie called Gubba, I would probably read about it.
With this trailer and everything, I think it would just completely, it would explain what it is, obviously. And you're like, okay. And it's a mystery. So you want to know about like, well, what is Gubba? Mm-hmm. What does he do? Obviously he's an intelligence eater. Mm-hmm. So that works. Now for an Along the Lines, the segment where we pull a line.
Has anything stood out to you that's...
I think Mark Dozin, the CEO of Fidget, would have a really good line. There was something where he met with Mike. I think we said something, or one of these meetings. Yeah. Or even with the previous guy who tries to kill Gubba and he's stopped by Mike. What he would say to him. Just like one sentence, you know?
Yeah, just a quick... That's not too on the nose. I'm trying to make something that's not too on the nose, but also interesting that ties to the theme a little bit. Maybe the guy who's dying, the bodyguard, he's laying there, he's dying. Mike goes over to try to like tend to him. Like he's not wanting him to necessarily die.
Yeah, as the guy's dying, for sure.
The guy grabs him by the jacket and pulls him close, and he just looks at him and he says, pay attention. And then he dies.
That's cool.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.